Welcome to Mountain Man Explore the Truth. Today we're going to be welcome on Ron Morehead. If you had an encounter, please email me at mountainmanett@gmail.com. Again, mountainmanett@gmail.com. Or you can private message me on Facebook. It's an honor to have Ron Morehead come on the show. Stay tuned. Coming up. Today we welcome on Ron Morehead. Welcome to the show, Ron Morehead.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Blake. How are you today? How's things out on the West Coast today?
Not too bad. It's a beautiful day. The sun is out. It's starting to warm up. It's going to be pretty hot this weekend. How's it over
Yeah,
there?
we're in well, I'm in North Carolina now. It's in the 80s here today, I think.
Oh,
Most of
wow.
Miami, I think. Sunny. This weather's really good where I'm at. So.
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting up here. I just talked to a logger over here. I don't know if you ever heard of Wildcat Road. You probably haven't, but um, a guy was telling me a story about a recent sighting just up the road here, and I was like, no way. And that's what I was just talking to him about a little bit ago, and he had a good sighting of it, and it kind of gave me goosebumps. He was claiming he was out bow hunting, and he got a good look at it. He said it had like an orange tint around his eyes, and kept peeking at him around the tree, and he knew he had to get out of there, so he got out of there. So
Yeah, they're peakers, I guess. Tree peakers, they call them.
yeah, it gave me goosebumps when he was telling me. I go, "Where was this?" He goes, "Just right up the road." I'm like, "No way."
Actually, there's quite a bit up there around Mount Hood. And,
Yeah,
Todd Neat.
I've lived out here since I was a kid, and I swear I've ran into a few things myself, but I never acknowledged it.
You know Todd Neese?
Yeah. I was gonna be having him maybe come on the show since he has some free time. He's been a busy guy.
Well, he's over on the West Coast right now, on the coast. But,
Yeah,
he lives right there by you in Sandy,
yeah.
right out of Sandy.
Yeah, even Cliff, I checked out his museum. When I first heard he opened one down here, I was like, "Whoa, no way!" Pretty cool place.
Mhm. Anyway, let's get right into it if
Yeah,
we're not into it already.
sounds. Yeah, let's go right ahead and go into it, Ron. I like to hear a bit about your seer sounds.
Well, their sounds were recorded in the 70s, early 70s, from 71 through 76, in a very remote area in Sierra Nevadas in California. And it was, I better just talk about something else. So, any better? And anyway, it started in 71 for me. The Johnson brothers have been hunting this remote area for last since 1958, and I didn't start going up until 71 with them. And it was just an encounter. These things would come around the camp at night, and we started going back and taking tape recorders. And they really didn't let their presence known to the Johnson brothers until 1971 when I started going up. And I started going up because one of the guys just got freaked out and he tore out of there pretty early after the sounds. And so he wanted someone to go back to check on those guys, see if they were okay. At that time, nobody had Bigfoot on the radar. They were just looking for deer. It's a deer hunting camp, and they've been about 8 miles in the wilderness, 8,400 feet elevation. So it's a very imposing trail to get to it. In fact, there's not a trail at all, a long way. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much how it began for me. I've been on the trail ever since.
Yeah, you've been in it for a long time.
Well, yeah, I remember across, see Alan Berry. Let's see, Alan Berry, he went in with us. He was an investigative reporter who we took in 1972. We thought it was probably a hoax when we pulled his legs. So it'd be Ivan Sanderson, who was a cryptozoologist back east here. And he got a 23-page letter from Warren Johnson, the leader of our group. And Warren sent it off to Peter Byrne, and Peter Byrne sent it down to Alan Berry, who lived in California. See if he wants to see if there's anything to this, because they all thought it was a hoax. I didn't know this until later on when I read the correspondence between them all. But anyway, Alan Berry came down and interviewed us all separately together, and we invited him in 1972 and took him in, and he started experiencing the same thing. So he, being a master's degree in science, knew that he had to get some evidence to get it studied to make sure, because he couldn't find evidence of a hoax anywhere.
Mhm.
And he finally found a guy named Professor Curlin at the University of Wyoming who took it seriously. And other people he had approached didn't take him seriously at all. They thought he was trying to pull their leg, and he wasn't. He knew he had something that needed to be studied and checked out. So he asked Dr. Curlin to just see if it was good or bad, if any hoaxing done or any toy making or anything like that. And anyway, Dr. Curlin studied it for a year, wrote a paper on it, presented it to the Anthropology Unknown in 1976, I think, 1970, something like that. Anyway, he showed where it represented an animal compared to the human. And he's, by the way, a professor of electrical engineering. And his job was to see if the tapes were manufactured or hoaxed in any way. And he determined that they were not. They were original, and they were made at the time of recording. And there was no 60 cycle hum, which would indicate pre-recording. And he showed where the decibel range was outside, inside, below, and above the average human range. So that was pretty good. And he presented that to the Anthropology Unknown in British Columbia. And that wasn't enough to get some of these academia on board. There's a lot of them up there. They just couldn't believe it wasn't just an ape in the woods. And I think that's the problem with so many academia today. They think if one of those things do exist, it's got to be just an unidentified ape in the woods somewhere. And
Mhm.
they're so very wrong. It's just not that way. And I've encountered them several times now in the Sierra camp. And so there's some more, much more to them than just that. And they may be part that, but they got something about them that's more human-like. And I say that with no apologies at all, because we had a cryptolinguist study the sounds in 2008. Was trained by the military to decipher codes, decipher unknown sounds as if it was a language. And he came out and interviewed us together when he heard the sounds by accident. And he determined through his studies that there was a language by the human definition of language, which means a morphine stream, kind of like you and I have right now, where we're talking back and forth with sapient intelligence behind it. These things
Mhm.
have that. And then you get Dr. Lieberman, who was one of the professors that Alan Berry approached. He, uh, he he said that only humans have the mechanism, vocal mechanism, which is a hyoid bone connected to the nervous system, to the tongue, and into the brain to give us sapient speech. Only humans have that. But you put that together with Scott Nelson, the cryptolinguist, and you put Dr. Curran's report. These things are more than just an ape in the woods for sure. And I think I've established that through the scientific data that we've had over the years with these sounds. If you got a question, just shoot it in there. I
Oh,
could dive
I'm
into
just agreeing with you on that. I'm soaking in. I'm the student, you're the teacher, and I'm learning as it goes.
what's the most valuable question you've heard about me and the sounds or whatever that I can answer for you.
Well, what really got me interested in your where you're going at with this is the quantum physics. I'm starting to hear more and more about they think these things go through portals and stuff like that. What's your thought on that?
Well, that's where I go with this. I think Bigfoot is probably the smaller picture of my whole life with this stuff.
Mhm.
I say my life because I've been into it now for 50 years. I've traveled the globe pretty much, researching different enigmas around the globe that people report. And actually, we had some very strange things happening up there at the camp. And Alan Berry, like I say, master's degree in science, he says, just don't talk about the strange things or you'll get invited to speak about this anywhere. So he and I went out, he's passed away in 2012, but he and I went out to different conventions and talked to different groups about the sounds, but we didn't talk about the strange stuff. And we're talking about really things that classical science just won't answer. And so many academics say, well, they just misinterpreted something. Well, no, we're not dummies up there. We're trying to figure this out with
Mhm.
classical means. Couldn't do it. So I got into the science that he said you have to get into. He didn't tell me quantum science, but that's the only other science that could answer this. And you get quantum science, which is just a little over 100 years old, and you get classical science, which is 1687. That's Isaac Newton's stuff. And we got to live by that because it's in our three-dimensional environment. But now quantum science says that there's more dimensions out there, more frequencies that we're not tuned into in third dimension. And you get into that and you realize that that's the answer to a lot of the strangeness that went on with us up there, which was lights and different anomalies and sounds that you couldn't identify, not Bigfoot sounds, but just sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I heard thought it was a tuning fork above our heads in the daytime one time and couldn't find the source of it. Looked all over and it just sounded like a big uh, 20-ton hummingbird or something up there.
Yeah.
And you get another time we thought our camp was being torn apart. Was inside this little shelter and heard all this commotion going on out there. And we heard our stuff being slung around. And we thought, looked out later when it all stopped and nothing had changed. Well, how do you explain that one? And in
Yeah, that's
2008, I took David Paulides up there with his filmer, and he did a fantastic job of reproducing something I seen in 2016, which was this floating tube looking light enigma that went floating by our tent. I say tent because the shelter had been torn down in 2015 and just about to fall down anyway, so we took it
mm-hmm.
out. And so, what do you do with that? It's a form of energy. When you get into quantum science, you realize that everything you can see is made of energy, frequency, and vibration. And that's quantum science. That's Tesla. That's Einstein, and those guys like that. They studied this, and if you find the most minute level of the structure that we're made of, and it's energy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's vibrating at a frequency. And Einstein said, if you find the frequency of anything, you can actually change its matter. Well, that's kind of far out there for a lot of people to get a hold of because everything has a frequency. Everything does, and it's made of energy. So you get into even Paul Dirac. He's a professor, UK, who got the Nobel Prize in 1933 for antimatter, which is the direct exchange between energy and matter. They're interchangeable, and that's what he got the Nobel Prize for. Energy and matter are interchangeable. So you hear these accounts of people saying they disappeared or the trackway stopped or stuff like that. Well, for a long time, I just didn't account those too much. I put them in my head, but I didn't put a lot of credence to them because that's hard to understand unless you get into how the laws of this world and the universe really work. And they work through quantum science. And that's according to Dr. Christopher Blair at West Texas A&M. He says that everything from the atom to the cosmos works through the laws of quantum physics. And so that's what I encourage people to start looking into if they want to know some of the answers to some of the strangeness that's going on. Because most people don't witness the strangeness, but a lot of people have. I kept getting reports of all these people that have had strangeness go on, and I suggest they get into quantum physics because it's not the same as the paranormal or the woo-woo factor and like
Mm-hmm.
that that people want to label you with. It's the actual science that answers some of the enigmas, some of the paranormal, some of the reports that you hear that are in the woo-woo factor, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think you're really onto something. Because when I started to read up on you, and I got your book on the way because I wanted to learn more about the quantum physics, and I've been looking into it, and it, I'm not the smartest person in the world, no way on that. And when I started looking into it, I was like, wow, there's something to this because it makes sense with all of a sudden you see these tracks and they disappear. What's going on there, you know?
right. Yeah, when they somehow through frequency they change their matter into energy, they would appear to cloak, get out of our perception.
Mm-hmm.
And the factories would stop because there's no more density to them. So that answers that question for me,
Yeah.
because we've had that happen to us. We couldn't finish following the trackway. At the time, we weren't even into quantum physics. None of us were, and didn't even consider it. At the time, how anything could just disappear out of your sight, because nothing could do that, right? Well, that's wrong. Classical science is based on everything measurable, predictable, physical, and material, but things aren't like that. Not everything. Things that you can see in our three-dimensional environment are like that, but there's other dimensions out there. We only see between 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our visual frequency. That's the light's frequency. That's all we can see with is light.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that way, and then you realize all these other frequencies are out there. You can see this anywhere that's, I got it on the internet, a picture of it, how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just realize how many other frequencies are out there that we don't see that they're there. And that's where you get in. Some people can see ghosts, certain times, depends on the temperature in the plasma field and all that. Well, other people claim they get into other dimensions. Well, other dimensions are not something that's way out somewhere else. They're all within us, and we can reach those frequencies if we learn how. And I think that's where I go with it, how to learn that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You learn the pineal gland, which is your receptor in your brain, and that is connected to the heart energy. And the heart energy will have a feeling. Just all of a sudden feel something, your brain tells you that's feeling that way. And it tells you to go a certain way, or you go another way with your analytical mind, it'll tell you to go somewhere else. Because your brain will override that. So you got to get coherent with your heart and your brain. Once you get those two coherent, then your mind will listen to your heart, like gut feeling, and you go with that, and you'll
That's
always be in
amazing.
the right place.
Yeah, my
Uh,
wife has been
but
getting into the spiritual energy and everything, and I've been looking into a little bit, like meditating a little bit. And I tell you what, it's very interesting, and it does do something to you.
absolutely. Yeah, Tesla said what one man calls God, another one calls quantum physics. And so, really, the subtitle of the back of my book is bringing science and spirituality back together because they used to be separated like they are now. Classical science has got themselves in parameters of a certain discipline, and they have to stay with that discipline. Academia has to stay within certain disciplines, or they'll lose their credibility with their colleagues. They lose maybe their funding for the next project. They lose tenure, maybe. So they have to stay within that. And I know some of these guys personally, but they still go to church and believe in God, but they can't believe in anything outside the parameters of the classical science.
Hmm.
And that's, again, everything measurable, predictable, and physical or material. And again, that's not everything. That's just part of things that we see in our three-dimensional environment.
I think that's the key, is to get people to open their mind to other things, because what opened my mind is when I was sitting out here by the cannon up here, Wildcat, and I seen some kind of light you brought up, that I saw some kind of light like that too, but it was kind of putting out like an infrared type color to it. So I couldn't really figure out what it was. It sat there, then it just disappeared.
Yeah. Well, you get a lot of reports like that. I've had reports like that for 50 years now. People telling me about what they saw that were just strange and different. That
Hmm.
caused me to write my second book, Quantum Bigfoot.
Yeah, I can't wait to
That's,
get it. I'm not much of a reader, but I'm definitely gonna read that and read into some other books on Bigfoot and other things.
I was raised spiritually. I mean, not spiritually, but religiously. There's a difference.
Hmm.
Religious can be very dogmatic, and but after a while, you start questioning some of the stuff they try to teach you. So, but really, there's a lot of nuggets in religions that you could listen to and pull out, and how quantum physics and spiritualism works is, I think, very important. They
Hmm.
work together. They're synonymous. So when you get into quantum physics, you find it is synonymous with spirituality. So what one man calls God, another man calls quantum physics.
Yeah,
And
that's very interesting.
and when you realize that these guys were studying the Veda, they were studying things. The Veda comes all the way from their cuneiform texts, which are written by the Anunnaki and into the Sumerian culture, and you get all the way to Abraham and Sarah going up into northern Mesopotamia and Syria, and they were probably collected a lot of the cultures that the Sumerians were teaching and had, and that brings it right into, well, several languages. In fact, just about all languages derive from cuneiform texts. It's the oldest known language known to us, and anyway, it gets deep when you get into all that stuff, and it's a lot of fun. Really, I've enjoyed studying this stuff because it really breaks open a whole another world for me. And
Hmm.
I hope from podcasts like this and others that I can bring that to other people. That's my goal in life. That's the passion I have is to help other people understand what's really going on in this world and this universe that we're a part of, and how important we are as human beings. We were created by very special high frequency entities. I say entities because even in the cuneiform text, the word God is never mentioned. In the cuneiform text, it's called Elohim, Elohim,
Hmm.
and that's mentioned 2,500 times in different cuneiform texts, and it's always in the plural form. Even Genesis let us make man in our image. And a lot of people say, well, that's just body, soul, and spirit. Well, yeah, it is, but that don't mean that's all. We're made a very, very special being to have dominion on this planet, and we're supposed to be taking care of it. And I don't think we are. I think a lot of people are blowing it up, they're killing each other, and stuff like that's going on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're a warring species, and a warring species just don't get it sometimes. They just want to kill things they don't understand
Yeah,
and
I agree with
dominate
you
them.
on that. That's the
And I think
problem.
if we go by, yeah, I think we go by the master's teaching, which is love and compassion, that we will. Hang on, wait a minute. I got somebody coming in.
Oh, no worries.
Recording this? You are probably. Yeah. The dog bites. I'm gonna pull up my drive. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry
But
about it.
the knock on the door, you're really gonna hear some dogs. Yeah, good. My wife left, so
Yep.
she's down there.
I can cut that
Uh,
out if you want me to, or I can leave it on. I don't care. I like leaving mine more raw and natural.
any way you want. I'm just a person, and you're just a person. So people
Oh
are just
yeah.
people, and they can
Well, I'm
understand that or
definitely
not.
learning a lot from you, and I can't wait to get the book. I'm gonna get a couple of your books, and
Well, some of these items I mentioned are going to be in my book I'm writing right now, like
oh
the
yeah, I heard
growl
about
Dorak.
that. So that's almost done,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, it's a ways. This stuff takes a lot of research and a lot of
Yeah.
think. Sometimes you got to pull away from it for a few weeks and start up again after you learn more.
Well, you definitely
So
got
that's
the brains for it because when I start taking notes and writing things down, and I start going,
well, thank you for that. Yeah, I don't know about that, but thank you.
oh, you're a smart man. Like I said, I listened to you on a few other podcasters and even documentaries, and I was like, man, he's on to something because it explains a lot. This quantum
Well,
physics
I
theory.
think I am, and if I didn't think I was, I wouldn't be on it. I think we
Mm-hmm.
have to live our truth. I'm 80 in my 80s now, and I just want to get what I think is truth out there. And if people
Mm-hmm.
want to get into it and study it and believe it or not, or whatever they would do, at least it gets them into thinking.
Yeah.
And so many people don't want to go any further than what they can see, feel, and touch, and that's a classical science. And
Mm-hmm.
if you go by that, well, you're never going to learn any more because there's more going on. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
somebody answered me a question: how far is it to the end of the universe if everything's measurable? Well, no one can answer that because it's infinity. How do you answer infinity with
Yeah.
our thinking mind? You can't. And there's so many things that we don't understand. And a lot of people don't understand how frequencies work, how our visual frequencies, what I mentioned before, between certain terahertz,
Mm-hmm.
and yet all these other frequencies out there, and we don't smell like a bear will. So a bear can smell; his olfactory sense is 20 times greater than man's. A dog is like 7 times. So it's just people understanding that we have limitations that we have to work through and understand that there's more going on, and then try to connect to those. And you do that through the science, I think, of a much better science. The modern science is what quantum physics is called.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little over 100 years old. In fact, Paul, yeah, Paul Dirac, he won the Nobel Prize in 1918 for quantum mechanics. So, and you get into that entanglement. How does entanglement work? It's where you sense something, all of a sudden it happens. Well, you know, when you get into quantum physics, time as we perceive it, linear time doesn't exist, and that's hard to get your head around. However, you got to like the space and into the space, you can't get your head around. You just have to conceive it and that it's real. We live in a linear time zone of a three-dimensional environment. And again, dimensional things are things you can produce inside of what you have. Everything you have, everything that's going on is inside of every human being that exists. You just have to learn to connect to it. And again, if you just meditate, relax, and let energy come into your pineal gland, and like I said, it gives energy to the heart, which will give you that gut feeling. The biggest thing then is having your heart in coherence with your brain, your outside brain, because we want to analyze everything. Your brain only can analyze what it's been taught, and once then after that, you got to conceive it or understand it somehow. And that's what I hope to do in my book. I try to write it in layman's terms, and I compare it to a lot of even scripture things in the biblical and ancient texts. So it's a spiritual type look at all this. And these things, Bigfoot is being reported all over the world, and uh, beings like that are being seen a lot more
Mm-hmm.
every day. thousands of reports have been coming in. And I don't think they're all the same because I think now our government tells us we can. We can all believe in aliens, right? Spaceships and all that stuff.
Yeah, I've seen
Well,
some strange things in the sky, and I couldn't explain it. And I definitely think maybe some of it's us, or maybe something else.
well, you don't know.
You
Thing
don't.
is,
You don't.
the cloak can go out of our perception. So how does that work? They have a way of manipulating matter and energy, and that's what we got to understand is that it does work through frequency, energy, and vibration. But yeah, now that they told us aliens have probably been coming here for eons, long, long time before Homo sapiens were made.
Mm-hmm.
The troglodytes were here, and that's, aliens have been coming here. I think they've been manipulating the genome of different species, and I think
I
they've been
agree with you.
experimenting
So.
hybridization programs. Some of them maybe just experiment, but some of them maybe to acclimate their species into this environment. Uh, this environment's unique, and we've been given it as humans, and that's uh, that's how I think anyway. So
Yeah.
different aliens have done different things to different species, and I think that's why a lot of these things can show different attributes that others don't show. The
Mm-hmm.
ones I dealt with in the Sierra, me and the other guys, these things had a component that was the same as humans, and that's language. And that's very, very important because what made that in them, we know what made ours, a very high frequency being did ours. God, if you want to say God, uh, which is, I think, again, an alien, which that's hard for people to grasp because they think it's a woo in the sky or something. But you can go to church on Sunday and believe in a hereafter and think there's pearly gates or whatever like that. You're in the woo woo factor, whether you like it or not. But
Mm-hmm.
we're all spiritual beings, whether we like it or not. And we got to understand that there's more going on than just this physical life. We have two entities inside of us. One's physical, that's what's going to pass away, but you've got the etherical component also. That's your consciousness. That's your spirituality. That's what continues on. And according to quantum science, energy cannot die. It just changes forms. And so we're all going to change forms. And the religious people think they're going to change forms and knock on those pearly gates. And maybe so, but physicists will think you're just going to change forms, theoretical physicists, because you don't die. Nothing dies.
Yeah, I agree with
Nothing,
you because energy goes somewhere. It doesn't just die. You're right.
yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm all about now. That's all I do is talk on programs like this and hope that I reach somebody with the understanding that there's you can't throw away your religious upbringing just because you don't believe in spirituality or don't believe in religion or anything, but you're spiritual and you got to understand there's things going on in the spiritual realm that you need to conceive and believe in because it's science too. It's not just some master talking. It's
Mm-hmm.
science.
That's the thing too is I'm not a very science based person, but I've been looking into a little bit of it because I don't know. I feel like they think they know everything, but I think there's more to it. They like to say that Bigfoot is an ape, but I think it's more. My opinion, I think it's more like a human and something else.
It's not an alien, it's they, and there's more than one kind. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said before, I think different aliens have done manipulation of the genome of different species. So there could be something that's out there so long, and according to native lore, they've crossbred with indigenous people,
Oh, gotcha.
and that would make some of them more human-like.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think the Patterson film, which we've all seen, the tracks that are there are more human-like. And I think it was probably a very diluted. I call it diluted because they've been crossbred so many times into the human genome. Well, it's just continues to be more human-like, and some of them don't have the attributes that we encountered in the Sierras because our trackways up there were different, and they were more splayed and bigger. And I think we're dealing with different types of different things. I've been in Nepal, I've been into Siberia, I've been into Peru, I've been in Moscow, I've been all over really. And a lot of these things just are different. They're talked about differently. There's native lore, or even here, says they live in two worlds. Well, how does that make sense? They
Mm-hmm.
they they, they can disappear. They say, well, yeah, they can. And how does that happen? Can they all do that? I don't know, but why aren't they found? Or haven't we found them? Backways can just disappear. So I think a lot of them are the same, but a lot of them are not the same. So I think we have to keep our ears open, our eyes open, and our mind open to what we can't, what our limitations are in this physical environment that we live in.
Yeah, you're right
And
because there has been a lot of different reports on, Bigfoot that been described differently. So I definitely think you're onto something. I think there is different types. Like this dogman thing I've been hearing more about. Maybe that's just a misidentification of, some kind of Sasquatch.
I agree.
So
Yeah, I don't disbelieve in the dog man. I never saw one or never witnessed anything, or I've talked to a couple people that swear up and down they saw them, but I haven't. So I can only talk about what I've experienced and what I
yeah, I
think
hear
I
you.
know, and that's what I try to do.
Yeah, that
So
that dogman thing is something else. I'm not sure what to think of it either. It's they're definitely seeing
well,
something.
just don't take it off your radar. Just leave everything
Yeah.
in your head, and that just put it all together someday. The dots will all start fitting, and
Hmm.
you'll get a picture. And that's what I think I've got. I think I've got it anyway with Bigfoot. And actually, the dog man or anything else that people claim they see, and had photographed it.
Hmm.
Somebody's pop up and say, "Oh, it's a phony. It's a phony photograph. It's blurry." Sure, it's blurry.
Yeah.
Somebody just emailed to me this morning and said, "How come all the pictures are blurry and all this high tech photography out there?" Well, I imagine it's a pixelization. You zoom in on these things from 100 yards away, and your pixelization is going to be as good on any camera. So, unless you're walking around with a big high tech, pixelization camera, which most people don't carry around in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, the way the guy gave this description of the what he saw up the mountain here, and he said it kind of had like a reddish long hair and that orange tint around the eye, and he said it kind of looked more human-like in the face, and he said it just looked like it went when he saw it, it looked right through him, and he was like, "Oh, I better get out of here." He started backing out. So,
Yeah, that can throw a lot of people, but your only fear in this life is your fear.
hmm.
And no thing you got to fear. I suggest to people that somehow they learn to control their fear or
Hmm.
master it, I should say, in a way.
Yeah.
And that's very important because if they sense that you have fear, they might capitalize on that, or you might imagine something that really isn't going on. Because
Yeah.
we make our own reality, and that's a hard one to swallow too, but we do. And
Hmm.
that's physics also. And so you got to keep your head out of the dark side and into the bright side of things, and never be the victim of anything. We're here on this planet to experience things, and that's what it's all about is experiences. And that's why we're here. However, more than just the experience itself, it's the attitude and the way we respond to experiences. If you consider yourself a victim, you're never going to learn anything. I tell my grandkids, I say, you're either going to win or you're going to lose. You're not going to lose. I say, you're either going to win or you're going to learn something.
Hmm.
The ball games they play and stuff like that, well, what'd you learn if you lost? You didn't lose. You just learned something. So we all got to learn things with every experience we have. That's how we graduate with our frequency. And the more you do that, the more you meditate and learn things, the higher your frequency will get, and the better chances you have of going to those pearly gates instead of something else.
Hmm.
And I love quantum entanglement because you mentioned the dogman a minute ago, and I was thinking about the dogman. So you got to wonder, did you think about that, or was I thinking about that first?
Oh well, yeah, I brought up the dog man. I was kind of curious what your
You
thoughts were
did,
on
I
it.
know you did, but I was thinking about it when you brought it up.
Oh, really? That's crazy. That's
I don't
cool.
know if you, I don't know if you sent that to me or if I sent that to you.
That's awesome. That.
But that's what happens, you get a feeling someone's going to call you and the phone rings and it's that person
Hmm.
or something else. But uh, you got the deja vu going on. You explain that through time demystification when you can understand how time really works
Hmm.
throughout the universe. It changes. It's just for us in this three-dimensional environment, it's all conditioned on gravity and how this earth is made. So we have to understand more about what's really going on through physics of this that exists. And it's a science accepted worldwide. So you can't deny it. It's just a lot of people will not try to explain it because it's just hard to explain some things. like the end of the universe. You can't explain it. You have to conceive it. And it's like God. You can't explain God. You got to conceive it, but then study it. Study what really is going on. I mean, personalities does God have? Well, again, check into the Anunnaki and check into the cuneiform texts, and you'll learn. We are made in the frequency of very high beings, and I think we have to appreciate who we are as humans and learn that we're here to respond to what we've been given and what we've selected to take to learn. And I got to say, if you don't learn in this lifetime, you're going to have to learn somewhere. And some people just die right out after they cut somebody's head off. Well,
Yeah.
they haven't learned a thing. Maybe I shouldn't judge them like that, but you gotta treat everybody with compassion and love in order to really graduate yourself and get up and get more.
Yeah, you definitely got to open your mind to these things. And when I started, researching a little bit more about you and on your theories, and I was like, you know what? He is really on to something because it makes sense with everything that's going on with energy. So I think you're doing an awesome
Well, it's
job.
thank you. Yeah. It's a fact. We're on this planet to learn and to experience, and again, responding to the experience is more important than the experience itself. How you respond to it. You respond to it with love and compassion, not be a victim. Like I think Billy Joel sing a song, like, don't be a victim of circumstance, something like that.
Yeah, I got lots to
Anyway,
learn. Here I am, 38, and I was like, oh, it's never too late to learn. Just go for it.
well, the way I feel at my age, I just want to say what I think is right and hope somebody looks into it if it is right. And if they don't think it is and not right for them, well, they don't have to take any of it. But
Hmm.
I appreciate being on programs like yours and doing what I do. That's what I'm for, I think. That's the reason I'm here. I've lived such an exciting life and been able to go around the world and just check out so many things and do so many things. And I've probably not let anything stop me. I was pretty successful in business at a younger age, but I made the time to do what I wanted to do and experience what I wanted to experience. Because way I was taught when I was younger, you only live once. Well, that's maybe not true.
Hmm.
So, I started experiencing things ever since I was a kid,
Yeah,
and
it's awesome. It's
I
you just keep going too.
well, I am, and
Hmm.
I go until I don't. That means
Hmm.
I respond to everything I can during this problemless time I've got.
Hmm.
But when you get my age, you want to. Well, sometimes you don't think you want to because even though you may not be like you were when you're 50 or 60 or even 70,
Yeah.
things change as you get older. And you don't desire to do what you used to desire to do when you're in your 20s or 30s. And I don't go out and run through the forest anymore or jump across rivers like I used to. I can still get out, but I do more of this stuff than I do anything else now. And
Well, I think it's
I think
important that you're doing this because, the more, like you said, the more you're on, the more people be aware about this, and open their mind to it. So
yeah, exactly.
that's why I was like, awesome. I got Ron Morehead to come on my show. I'm a greenhorn, and only got a few encounters in, and I got some lined up, and set dates. It's kind of hard to work around my
Well,
work schedule, but hey, I'm going for it.
yeah, I was wondering about that because this is about the only time I have till I'm going to be out of commission for July. We're doing some things in
Mm-hmm.
uh, June and July, so part of July.
Well,
So
yeah,
I'm
it's.
pretty tied up.
I figure
Pretty
you're a
tied up.
busy man, so.
Well, lately I've been getting busier and busier and busier, and just was in Florida here a week before this last weekend, and I've got to go to another convention this next weekend, and in between I do podcasts, and that's all I do. And that in between there, I got to do an audio book, which I've got to do. I got to do that, and but I'm still trying to write the other book too. Not trying. I can't say try. People say try, only finish it 90% of the time. So I kind of need to get that word out of my vocabulary.
Yeah,
You
that's
either
that's
do it or you don't.
yeah, that's what my wife was telling me. She says, "You're not trying, you're doing it. Go for it." It's your dream.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah, you either do it or you don't.
yeah,
You don't try.
it's like, what do you got to
If you
lose?
try, that
Just go
leaves you
for it.
way out. If
You're
you try,
right.
that leaves you. Well, I tried.
Yeah. And that's what my podcast is going to be basically about. That's why I call it Mount Man Explore the Truth. It's open to everything to explore the truth and get it out there. I don't want to turn into a Hollywood star podcast. I just want to keep it natural and enjoyable and learning for people.
We have to manage our ego also. That's
Mm-hmm.
important.
Yeah. I don't want to
Because,
be that. I just want to, listen
well, I
to
don't,
people's
I
encounters.
had, we all go through the ego thing because, you want to comb your hair in the morning so you look good to people. But when you go to church or something, you don't want to stand there and say, "Hey, everybody, look at me! I comb my hair."
Yeah.
That's ego.
And I see that a lot in the Bigfoot world now. And I'm like, come on, guys. Isn't the subject Bigfoot? Let's get into that. Find out more information.
Well, people who say there's not one just don't have an open mind because
Mm-hmm.
you got so many thousands of reports, and they should go to some of these conventions that I speak at. This last one in Florida I did a week or two ago. It's had over 2,000 people there. They were maxed out, and
Wow.
just they're big anymore back here east, more than so than they were on the west coast. But they're getting bigger everywhere you go. So I might be coming back to the west coast this summer for another one. I'm not sure yet. Trying to negotiate that now. So
Yeah, it's hard for me to
anyway,
leave Oregon. I think I'm gonna stick around here and look into buying some property.
they,
Yeah.
I'll be going to North because I'll probably see Todd when I go visit around. And my daughter lives down in Cottage Grove, so I'll see her, and then I have another one up in Washington. So
Oh, right
I
on.
have grandchildren down in California, so I'll just make a big loop there probably.
Yeah, you got to make your visit through.
Yeah, yeah, and then I'll have another convention when I get back.
Well, if you're ever
Okay,
interested in coming back on and talking about your book when it's done, I'd love to have you come on and whatever time you can spare. I don't want to take up too
thank you.
much of your time.
My time is yours, and my time is to get the word out. So
Yeah.
that's what I try to get as many as I can, as often as I can, and unless they interfere with something else I got going on, I'll do it. It's
Hmm.
just again, I want this to take place. I want people to understand aliens are here. Aliens have been here. There's things going on this planet right now that hasn't gone on before, or maybe they have. Like even Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so should it also be in the second coming. Well, here we are. Giants are on the earth. Aliens are here. They're infiltrating the genome of different entities. That's what they were doing in the days of Noah, but it caused the deluge. So,
Yeah. What do you think
uh,
about the that theory of the what do you call them, the Nethiums? What do you think they are?
Nephilim,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, well, I personally think they're part of the Anunnaki, the ones
Okay.
that fell,
Okay.
the bad ones. And they're the ones that really gave humans a kickstart. And if you start reading up on on Inky and these different demigods that were here, and some of the kings lists that are in the cuneiform text, excuse me, you find out more about that stuff and how and why all the different scriptures, even in the testaments of different ancient texts, have been altered to meet the needs of the king who was in charge, who wanted to control the people. So I have to understand what really started me years ago on all this was I kept trying to understand that gate in Jerusalem, which is harder for a camel to go through the how's that go than through that gate than it was the eye of a needle.
Hmm.
Oh, how's that go? Anyway,
Yeah, I
I
find
started
that
looking up the word.
interesting. So yeah.
Well, that interested me, so I looked up in the Hebrew text. I had the word for camel, actually, and the word for camel, when translated from Greek into Hebrew, is the same word for rope, same spelling and everything. So that was just misinterpreted.
Hmm.
What makes more sense? Camel, you know what I'm trying to say. A rope to go through the eye of a needle or a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Never could find out where that gate was in Jerusalem either. So that kind of got me on a kick. Wow, there's some misinterpretations here. Uh, it's quite a few of them, really. But you have to research them to see how the culture was, what the icons or the idioms were of the day, what they really meant when they were saying something. And that's another book you can get, idioms of the Testament.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You must tell somebody today that your grandma got thrown under the bus. You know, they wouldn't know what she's talking about 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Uh, those kind of things. Anyway, I got to take off.
Yeah, you wanna where can we find your books? Do you just go to your
Ron,
website?
Ron, RonMorehead.com.
Okay, that's what I thought.
10MOREHEAD.com.
Yeah,
Where you go through Bigfoot sounds. Of course, there's a lot of people out there either plagiarizing my sounds or they're got other sounds where it's just a whoop or yell or scream or knock or something like that. But I actually have the recorded languages of these things. They've been studied by science, and all my books, both my books, are downloadable on my
mhm,
website, ronmorehead.com. I have two CDs out also, which narrate Jonathan Frakes' Star Trek Next Generation narrates my first one. It's Al Berry's story, and it's got the more aggressive sounds on it, where the second CD I narrated, and it's my story, same camp, just different type of sounds, which they were interacting with me on that one.
that is
I say
cool.
interacting, they were responding to me, trying to mimic them, and vice versa. Uh, Kind of a compelling night, really.
Yeah, if you're
Uh,
okay with
but
it, would it be all right if I
that's not I got.
put oh, sorry, Ron. If it would it be all right
That's
if
not
I
I got.
put some of those sounds in at the end of the show?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
Uh, that's not I got to see one. Me and my friend both saw one that night.
Yeah, that's
And that's a
cool.
long time coming because I didn't produce that till, though it wasn't recorded until 1974. I produced it just a few years ago, but I had the tape from that, which was actually, excuse me, the original tape was burned up in a fire, but I sent a copy of it off to Alan Berry, and he sent it back to me and said, "You should write a book." And that's what got me kind of going, so I write my own book. He was a good writer, Al Berry was. He's a journalist, working for a newspaper at the time, but he also had the master's degree in science, so that was a pretty credible person. Big man, become a good, very good friend.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Ron, and taking the time to come on. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking me. And, well, maybe we'll talk again someday.
Yeah, I'd love to. All right, I'll keep in touch and let you go.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye. Well, guys, that's the show. It was an honor to have Ron Morehead come on the show. I'm a greenhorn, and I had somebody like him come on. That's awesome. I learned a lot more to learn, of course. It just goes on and on. Once again, I'd like to thank Ron for coming on. You can get his books on www.ronmorehead.com. Very interesting, and I'm getting ready to get a few myself. If you had an encounter and want to be on the show, email me at mountainmanett@gmail.com. Again, mountainmanett@gmail.com. Or you could private message me, Blake Botel, Botpl. Again, Botpl. Well, guys, until next time, let's explore the truth together.